Good morning, everyone. Today is Friday, August 25th, 2023. I'm Dr. Umonja Smalls, Director of Professional Development for the Maryland Department of Health's Developmental Disabilities Administration. We welcome you to our monthly series of DDA updates with the Deputy Secretary Bernie Simons. On the panel today, we have Bernie Simons, Deputy Secretary for the DDA, Robert White, Director of Operations, Nick Burton, Director of Programs, Nova Evans, Deputy Director of Federal Programs and Integrity, Nick Gabor, Director of Finance, and Will Payne, our Health Policy Analyst. Before we begin, I'd like to go over a few things about the webinar. All participants are in listen-only mode. There are two options to hear the webinar, by computer and phone. If you look at the panel interface on your right labeled audio, you can click either computer or phone to switch for the best option. We will be recording the webinar and posting this session on YouTube and on the DDA website. Today's PowerPoint has also been uploaded as an attachment and is available for you to download in the webinar panel box. If you're listening by phone, you can request that it be emailed to you. Questions can be typed in the question or chat box in the webinar panel, and we will get to those towards the end of the presentation. And now I'd like to introduce Deputy Secretary Bernie Simons. Good morning, Bernie.
Good morning, everyone. We can go to the next slide. So I want to thank everybody again for joining our monthly community webinar. And, I look forward to sharing some updates since our last webinar that we had together. And obviously, we have some presenters that will be here today with us. Nova Evans, Nick Burton, Robert White. They'll be providing updates on their areas of oversight. And then I'll also be sharing the governor's proclamation making August 15, 2023, what we did with what we'll be doing with the proclamation, and also talking about the DSP awards that we should be doing for their appreciation. And so obviously you see on the agenda, we'll do the federal programs, program updates, and operations. Next slide, please. So this past Tuesday, we did celebrate our first year of Maryland being a tech first state, similar to like we did years ago with employment first. And we had a great turnout. We had over 300 attendees between in-person and virtual. And, we learned a lot and had a lot of fun. It was a great day. It was good experiences for people. And, it was wonderful to see so many of our partners come together and share the amazing technology that exists out there, and, be able to have people live more independently and develop relationships and engage in their communities. And our goal was obviously to connect the dots, right? We wanted to make sure that people would understand technology and use technology in the person-centered planning that we do on an annual basis or anytime throughout the year when there's a change in somebody's status, et cetera. And my hope is that technology is always in the forefront, that we can assist people to be much more independent. Technology is a game changer. It's got a lot of potential, and it opens up a whole new world for people to achieve what they want to do, and their hopes and their dreams that they identify in their person-centered plan. I also need to thank Secretary of Department of Disabilities, Carol Beatty, for joining us and, presenting the governor's proclamation that August 15th, 2023 is Tech First Day. It was our first anniversary. It was really great. And I also need to thank our sponsors. We had the Maryland Developmental Disabilities Council there. We had Kennedy Krieger, Sieg, Richcroft, Safe at Home, and, their contributions made our event truly special. And finally, I want to thank the DDA team members who contributed in making this successful. If you missed it, you can see the recording. You click on the link that was sent out yesterday in our newsletter, and you can see the whole issue of what's there. So, it was really, really good. So obviously, next slide. As I said, in September, we're going to begin celebrating DSP Appreciation Week from September 10th to the 16th. This is really special, and it's a great time to recognize and honor all the direct support professionals who make such an impact in the lives of people daily. And so the Maryland Department of Disabilities is always taking the lead on this, and they will once again be accepting nominations for outstanding DSPs. And please make sure that your nominations are submitted by Friday, September 8th of this year, obviously. And we look at DDA forward to partnering with the Department of Disabilities on celebrating these activities throughout the whole month of September and October. With that, I'm going to pass this on to Nova from the Federal Programs Unit, and thank you for being here again today.
Great. Thank you, Barney, and some really exciting stuff. Good morning, everyone. My name is Nova Evans. I'm the Deputy Director of Federal Programs. Today, we are going to share some information related to the DDA operated waiver program policies and frequently asked questions. And then Will Payne will be sharing some information about the website. So next slide, please. So we are happy to announce that our housing support services policies have been published in PolicyStat. You can see the direct links there, or you can go to PolicyStat to find that. We've included that link here to find the initial draft policies along with the summary of stakeholder input and the final track change policies. You can visit the DDA Policy Stakeholder Input Archive webpage, and that's also linked there. And if you have any questions, you can please reach out to the DDA Federal Programs Policy Lead, Danielle Coles, and her address is there on the slide. Next slide, please. So this slide is a reminder that the DDA is seeking public input currently on our proposed nursing support services policy. You can access the proposed policies using the link provided on this slide. The public comments are being accepted through September 8th, 2023. So you can please submit comments electronically to the dedicated email address that is listed there on the slide. You can also click on the link to get the direct link to the nursing support services policy. You would also mail your comments to the DDA Federal Programs Unit at 201 West Preston Street, Baltimore, Maryland, 21201, if you'd prefer that as well. Next slide, please. So the DDA did make an update to its respite care services policy this week. We removed language that stated if an individual that provided respite care lived with a person, the individual could not be contracted or paid to provide any other DDA funded services to that person. Recognizing that this was really a barrier that got in the way of people getting care, respite care services, that was stricken. And that means that if an individual lives with a person, they can provide respite care services and other services as long as they're not the person who normally provides care for the person. And this will help clarify and resolve any non-payment issues that were due to the previous policy language. Next slide. This slide notes that the DDA's frequently asked question document was updated on August 21, 2023, related to the Policy on Reportable Incidents and Investigations webinar that happened on the 27th of July. You can click on that link there and it will take you to the webinar itself. And you can also click on the DDA frequently asked questions link at the bottom to get the updated questions and answers and related to that. Yeah, and I think that's it. And so now I'm going to turn it over to Will Payne to share some really exciting updates on the website and DDA services. So take it over. Next slide.
Okay, thank you very much, Nova. At present, the DDA is involved in a multi-month effort to modernize our website and to make it more user-friendly and person-centered. We are really grateful for those of you who submitted comments and responses to the website survey shared in previous webinars of this series. And we're moving forward with some updates that we're excited to tell you more about over the coming months, including one new area that we'd like to introduce today. In general, we want to improve our site in ways that update information and make sure all information is current, make the navigation clear so that it's easy to find things you need and you have to click fewer times to reach things you need, increase accessibility by assuring that all of our pages are screen reader accessible and also use plain language in every case possible, and also improve site-wide search so that you can search for the things you need using the MDH search bar and find them more quickly in that way. The link at the bottom of this slide is a link to our website contact form that will send me an email as well as the other people working on the DDA website. You can use that form to submit questions or requests for documents that may have been replaced with the newer version. And we're welcoming all feedback through that mechanism and also using feedback that we received through the previous survey. So next slide, please. We are excited today to introduce a new webpage for DDA waiver services that can give you more specific information about each of the services provided through DDA waivers and through other means. So if you visit the services webpage linked on this slide, you'll see service information split out by meaningful day, support services, and residential service categories, as well as links to information about our service models, which are self-direction and traditional services. Within each service category, you can see a list of services with a brief description. And if you click on a service, you can see more detailed information, such as the information found in the recent DDA Guide to Services and a link to applicable service policies and policy stat. So that's the extent of our updates about the website for now. We're excited to share more in the future. And I'm now going to turn it over to Nick to share updated information related to programs.
Thanks, Will. I'm very, very excited about the webpage updates. I think they are looking good, and I think they're going to be really fantastic for people and families and providers to be able to access information really quickly. So program updates. We're going to talk about a few things today. Very quickly, we're going to talk about self-directed service updates, LTSS transition updates, EVV reminder, and then PORI. So we can go to the next slide and we'll get started. So we had a webinar, Wednesday it was, regarding self-directed services and the work that DDA is doing to relieve a lot of the stress out there that families and employees and vendors are experiencing in regards to any non-payment issues through their FMCS agencies. We're working closely with the FMCS agencies to be able to triage those and make sure that payments are starting to be moved. We've also created a DDA rapid response team. The rapid response team is actively reaching out to people and to families and to support brokers, to employees, to FMCS, CCS, to work to get necessary information cleared up, get documents to the FMCS, all in an effort to help resolve these payment issues. The rapid response team has been in existence for about 5 business days now. They have triaged, I believe, 90% of everything that has come in as of this morning. And I would say have touched base with the majority of people that they have triaged at this point, with the understanding that they will be continuing to reach out to everyone. If you have submitted something and you haven't heard, you are always welcome to shoot me an email, and we can work to make sure that one of the response team members gets back to you as quickly as possible. We're also working really closely within the regional offices and with CCS entities, our coordinators of community service agencies, to make sure that all person-centered plans are approved by the annual plan date. When they're approved by the annual plan date, that just makes things a lot simpler in terms of getting the budget to the FMCS, getting it uploaded, getting it in place so that people have the codes they need by the time their new plan starts. Yes, we have an auto extend process for person-centered plans, but that can be a headache for people. And we want to make sure that all person-centered plans are approved by the annual plan date. We're also working on training for coordinators of community service, training for employers about roles, responsibilities of being an employer, approving timesheets, right? CCS for the coordinators of community service, the roles and responsibilities around monitoring for self-directed services, but then also training as it relates to employees, vendors, and our system in general. What is self-direction? How does it work? How do we engage with it? What does the process really look like? And how do we make sure that it's continues to be a strong system for people that choose to self-direct? Starting next month, we're also going to be starting to schedule monthly self-directed service meetings for people, families, employees, vendors. This is a good opportunity for us to all come together, make sure that we have the same information, potentially do some training, policy clarification, but also do some question and answer with each other so that we're all hearing the same thing at the same time. As soon as we are able to stabilize our current situation and have data showing that we're moving in the right direction regarding payment, we want to start looking at our self-directed service policies and crosswalking that with the FMCS to make sure things are understandable, to make sure things are accessible, and to make sure that the policies we have in place make sense. We also want to make sure that those policies are accompanied with some visual guides, right? So when we're talking about onboarding and the requirements from onboarding from the FMCS and the requirements to choose to start self-directing your services, what does that look like? What's the time frame? What needs to be completed? And making sure that's visually depicted so that it's very understandable. The other thing that we want to do, and we're going to start working on finding some dates for, is a regional listening tour. We want to hear from you. We want to get your feedback. We want to engage you, your family, this community, to make sure that together we can create a strong and flexible, sustainable, self-directed service system in Maryland. And I think that's everybody's goal. We want self-direction to thrive, and the DDA is committed to having it thrive, and we understand that we need to do that work with all of you. And I also just want to thank all of our partners that have continued to bring information to us and share information with us and let us know what's going on in the self-directed world. That's really important to us as we continue to work with all of you to keep moving forward. So I appreciate those of you that have sent in questions or have ideas, keep them coming. This is a collaborative process. All right, next slide, please. In regards to our LTSS transition, things are looking really, really good. And in about 5 days, we're going to be half in. We're going to be 50% all in. So that's amazing. By January 2024, we will be at 65% all in. All of our providers have chosen a go live date. And for those of you that are still haven't gone live yet, and if you have some questions or you need some support, we do have technical assistance that's provided by our early adopters, and you can request by clicking request support by clicking on the link there on the screen in the PowerPoint. And I really encourage all of you that maybe have questions about the early adopters that kind of paved the way for LTSS transition to really pick their brain. They have a lot of great experience. They have a lot of lessons learned. They are worth reaching out to and grabbing a cup of coffee, having some lunch, pulling up your system that you have, and kind of talking about what worked and what didn't work. So I'd encourage that. Next slide, please. All right, just a reminder, you're going to get a lot of reminders about EVV respite from us and then from our partners over at EVV. Under DDA's traditional service model, effective October 1st, respite care 15-minute will become a service billed through EVV. Respite care, daily service and camp are not required for EVV. There's a really handy dandy fun video linked here under resources, and I would encourage you to take a look at that. I believe it talks about the mobile app, which is going to make this easy breezy. So take a look at it, and I believe that the video there has, if you have additional questions, to go ahead and reach out, and I believe to the EVV team to ask those questions. You can certainly reach out to us as well, and we can get you connected with the right person. All right, I think, oh, I got one more slide. So next slide, please. All right, PORI. I think we broke the record on webinar attendance for the PORI training. If I remember correctly, and Dr. Smalls might have to correct me, I think it was in the 600 or 700 range. So quite a lot of people attended the PORI training. I also understand that there was good attendance at the person and family training on PORI. As we mentioned, this was to level set on PORI as is now, but then we did talk about, and the Deputy Secretary shared that he would like to get the PORI policy work group back together to review what the previous work group has done and finalize those updates to our PORI policy to reflect our current state. So our Director of Quality Enhancement, Nicole, will be starting to engage. If you're interested in being a part of that policy work group, please reach out to Nicole Kropfelder. Please know that this isn't going to be starting over from zero. We know that a lot of work went into in the previous work group, and we're going to use that to really be able to be quite nimble, quick in getting something put together for final review and implementation. So this should be a fairly painless work group for folks to be a part of. But I appreciate those of you that came to the training, and I appreciate all the feedback and ideas that we've gotten about PORI. This is the heart of health and safety, so it's important for us to make sure that we have something that's reflective of the system that we do have. And with that, I think I am turning this over to Robert and his team.
Great, thank you, Nick. So we do not have an update this month by Liberty, so we'll probably have an update again next month. So today, just want to talk about the financial statements, really more of just a reminder, and then the cost detailed tool. So if we can go to the next slide, please. So this is basically the same information we reported out on last month. So again, the audited financial statements are required for providers billing in LTSS Maryland. And for this year, we're going to need those for both FY 2022 and FY 2023, and of course, annually moving forward. And the due date for those audited financial statements is December 31, 2023 for this year, and then moving forward no later than December 31. If there's anyone or any provider agency that needs an extension, you can send an email to Nick Gabor. His email is listed here. We've also created a dedicated email account for moving forward, any DDA provider data. But for the excuse me, the audited financial statements, you can send those to dda.providerdata@maryland.gov. And if we have any questions, we'll get back to you. That email isn't monitored daily, so if you have questions, please send those to Nick Gabor. Next slide, please. So we posted the cost detail tool for FY 2024, and then as folks were pulling it down and using it, they noticed that there were either errors or perhaps some rates that weren't reflected. I think it was more the tabs that weren't relabeled, but we have gone in, made some changes to the tool. We now have some of our regional fiscal staff QAing it, and then we want to send it to a few providers to test out before we make it available. Again, we want to make sure that we've resolved all of the issues before we post it. We know how important this tool is for those of you who are billing in PCIS 2, and as soon as it's ready to go, which will probably be early next week, we will be sending out a separate communication along with the link to the tool. And again, if you have any questions, please reach out to your regional fiscal representative. The other thing I want to do is give you all an update on where we are with the January 1 rate tables. So as you know, we posted the rates that went into effect on July 1, which were inclusive of the 4% FY 2024 rate increase. In January, there will be another 8%.
Nick Gabor, it sounds like maybe we lost Robert. Are you able to jump in and fill in
I'm
on?
sorry.
Okay.
I don't know what happened. What was the last thing that folks heard?
I think you said something about a rate.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay.
So yes, I just wanted to give an update on the January 1 rate table that is forthcoming. We expect to have that back from the actuaries today. Once we get that, we'll post that as well. So the January 1 rate table will be different from the one that's currently out there. The July 1 rate table includes the 4% rate increase that went into effect July 1. The January 1 rate table will include the additional 8%. And so once we get that back, we'll do a QA check to make sure everything's correct and get that posted and send out a COM when that has been completed. And I believe that's it for me. Next slide. Okay, great. Turning it back over to you, Bernie.
Yeah, so this slide obviously shows the links for you can share with your colleagues and their families, participants, and you know, after registering for our webinars as you have in the past, you receive confirmation, excuse me, email. And now I want to give an opportunity for my team to answer any questions that you had about anything that was shared in today's webinar. And again, thank you for being here today.
Okay, so I'm going to go through and read some of the questions that we have. And team, if you would respond, we will try to get through as many as we can before the end of today's webinar. Okay, first question. Is there a recorded copy of the self-directed services webinar? And I guess I could answer that. Yes, we do have a copy. It's uploaded to our YouTube channel. It was also it will be included in our newsletter, but you can access it directly on our website and on our YouTube channel. The next question. Some of these are a little longer, so give me a second. How about state-only payments for CCS targeted case management providers? Okay, that person's asking for some additional information. I'll go to the next question. Do providers billing 100% in LTSS need to submit the cost detail tool?
Okay, I can take that one. No, if providers are billing 100% LTSS, then the cost detail tool wouldn't apply. Also, the cost detail tool is not something that gets submitted back to the DDA. It's more of a resource for you all to use to budget revenues. So it's not required, it's not mandatory. It's just a tool for you all to use.
Thank you, Robert. The next question is, will self-directed participants get the 8% rate increase in January? Nick, are you able to answer that?
Yeah, Robert, I'm going to defer to you from a budget perspective. And I think when we sent out our recent rate tables, it included an increase. Is that correct, Robert?
Yes, that is correct. So when we get these rate increases, they're applied to the rates right at that service level, and that's what will happen in January. Those rates will go up. So if I would suspect that if a budget has the SES budgets are driven by those rates, and so I'm not sure how that happens or if it happens retroactively, but it's more of a point moving forward type of period. So as budgets are renewed, or then it should pull in the latest rate.
Thanks, Robert. There are a couple questions around that 8% increase. This next one is the 8% increase applicable to all day services and personal supports?
Yes, great question. The 8% is applicable to all the rates that are built in both PCIS2 and LTSS.
Thanks, Robert. This next question. We are not fully live in LTSS. We are just billing personal supports, supported living, and our pilot home. Do we need to submit an audited financial statement, or is that only for providers who are fully live?
That is for providers who are fully live. I believe that if you're billing in PCIS2 and you're filling out the cost reports, there's a section, and don't quote me on what the label is, but it has something to do with other revenue. So that's where you would document the revenue that you're pulling out of LTSS.
Thank you. Next question. When do we get COLA? How can COLA be used?
So again, the COLA is applied to the rate itself. And so, you know, they're there to help support the program. There's no guardrails on how the COLA is used. It's just applied to the rate. So, you know, how we're using the rates currently to support your operation, support the program, support growth. I would imagine you would just probably use it in the same way, just have a little more capital to expend.
Thanks, Robert. Here's kind of a generic one. What is PCIS 2?
So PCIS 2 is our legacy billing system for providers who are, you know, part of the fee payment system, which is the prospective payment system. LTSS Maryland, which is our new billing system, it will be used to support the new payment methodology that we're transitioning to, which is fee for service. I believe it stands for Provider Consumer Information System or something to that effect. I'm not quite sure what the acronym stands for, but it's basically just our legacy billing system that is being phased out.
Thanks, Robert. Please, what is the contact information for Nicole? And I'm assuming that's Nicole Kropfelder. It's NICHOLE.KROP, as in popcorn, KROP as in popcorn, FELDER, the number 1 at maryland.gov. The next question. Could you please provide a sample classification of a provider?
Yeah, I think we're going to need more information on that. I'm not quite sure what that is asking for in terms of a sample classification. So the person that said that, if you want to reach out to me via email, we can have a conversation about what the ask is there. Thanks.
Thanks, Nick. And I think just a few more questions here. I know, let's see. Is there a plan to move reportable incidents PORI to LTSS?
Good question. Yes, we've certainly, that is with PCIS 2 eventually sunsetting. That is a conversation we're having. Certainly there are no specifics and no dates, and as there is will absolutely be communicated, and there will be opportunities for feedback and input and plenty of runway to make sure that we get there.
Okay, well, and looking at the list, some of these were just responses and thank yous to some of the questions already answered. If there are no other questions, do we want to wait a second to see if there are any additional questions folks want to ask? Okay. Yeah, there's a slight delay, so I'll get maybe 1 or 2 more here. For the SIP, how would you include transportation as a service goal?
Well, that really depends on the person and what their goals are and what the transportation is being utilized for and what they do in the community and where they go. So I don't think there's a general answer to that. I'm happy to have that conversation with you or the team. If you want to send me an email at Nicholas, NICHOLAS.Burton@maryland.gov.
Thanks so much, Nick. And that's going to conclude the questions for today. If for some reason your question wasn't answered, we will review and provide an update in our FAQs. I want to thank you for attending today's webinar and for posting your questions in the question box. As always, we value this feedback and we will review and respond frequently to those frequently asked questions by updating, as I mentioned, the DDA FAQ document. Thank you so much for your dedication to our DDA community, our DD community, and we hope you'll join us for our next webinar on September 29, 2023, again from 10:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.